asked to commence their remarks by stating their name and address. Written comments may be submitted before closure of this public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak at this public hearing is asked to do one of the following. If you are participating in person, please step up to the microphone. And if you are participating by computer, click the raise hand button, which can be found in the participants panel on the right-hand side of your computer screen. This will indicate that you wish to speak. If you are participating by a phone, please press *3 on your phone's keypad, and this will also indicate that you wish to speak. Having indicated that you wish to speak, you will be placed in a queue until invited to speak. All speakers will be restricted to a time limit of 5 minutes until everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to speak a second time may do so by following the same protocol of stepping up to the microphone, selecting the raise hand button on your computer, or by pressing *3 on your phone's keypad. To submit written comments, please submit them prior to the close of this public hearing by emailing them to planning@rdos.bc.ca, or for those attending in person by placing them at the head table. I will now ask Marianne, oh my gosh, I'm scared to pronounce that last name, Frizzy, planning technician, to outline the specifics for these proposed bylaws. Please go ahead.
Thank you. This is for the application for a proposed OCP and zoning bylaw amendments, which is file number H 2025.017 zone. So this one. Oh, okay. The location is at 3831 Princeton Summerland Road. The current OCP is large holdings. Current zoning is large holdings 2. It is within growth area and also part within the ESDP and WDP area. The proposal, it's seeking for a rezoning in order to facilitate the subdivision of the property, subdividing into 5 lots ranging from 1.05 hectares to 5.36 hectares in area. Proposed amendments to amend the OCP designation of the property under the electoral area H OCP bylaw number 2497, 2012, from large holdings to small holdings, and to amend the zoning of the property under the electoral H zoning bylaw from large holdings 2 to small holdings 3. And this is what it would look like from large holdings 2 to small holdings 3 zoning. So large holdings 2 permits single detached dwelling and mobile home or recreational vehicles. Accessory dwellings or mobile homes are permitted. The minimum parcel size for subdivision is 8 hectares, and the maximum dwellings permitted on parcel is 1 principal, 1 secondary suite, and 4 accessory dwellings for parcels greater than 16 hectares. For small holdings 3, permitted is single detached dwelling or mobile home or recreational vehicles. Accessory dwellings are permitted as well. Minimum parcel size for subdivision is 1 hectares, and maximum dwellings permitted per parcel is 1 principal, 1 secondary, and 1 accessory dwelling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I will declare this public hearing now open and ask if there's anyone who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaws. If you want to speak, if you can just step up to the microphone in the room or raise your hand online. I'll ask a second time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? The applicants are in the room. If they wish to address the board, now would be the time to do that. Okay. I'll ask for a third and final time. Am I missing anybody, Louis, that you're seeing online that I'm not? Okay. Hearing and seeing nobody indicating they wish to speak, I will hereby declare this public hearing closed at 9:05. And thank you, everybody, for your attendance. Okay, we can move straight into the regular Region District Okanagan-Smilkameen board meeting. We have before us the proposed agenda. There's consent agenda. This would be your opportunity to remove anything off the consent agenda if you want to put it into the main portion. Now is the time to make that change. Seeing no hands there, we did have one request to remove item C5, and that was from the applicants. So with that removed, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. That brings us down to the consent agenda, corporate issues. Looking for a motion for there. Moved, thank you. Seconded. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? That motion carries. Consent agenda, development services. Motion there. Moved, seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? Again, that motion carries. That brings us down to development services, untidy, unsightly bylaw enforcement in Area H. Over to the CAO.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek direction from the Regional District Board regarding enforcement against the property of 681 Highway 3 East, illegally described as District Law Plan KAP 92312, in regards to construction of an addition without a building permit. Staff's here to answer questions. No PowerPoint presentation. Recommended motion should be appearing on the screen shortly.
Okay, I will go to the area director. I'm not seeing him online at this stage. So do we have a direction from the board on this? Looking for a motion. Director Monteith?
I'll make the administrative recommendation.
Okay, you're moving it. It's seconded. We have that. So usually when we move to put a notice on title or such, we ask if the applicant is in the room and wants to address the board, or online, I should say. I'm not seeing any hands on my end. Am I missing any there, Lewis? Okay, thank you. Turn it over to the board. Any discussion? Director Taylor.
So this is under unsightly and tidy.
That's my understanding, but
To lack of building permit.
I will go to the CAO or staff.
It should be under the building bylaw. I'm not sure why that was listed as the unsightly. I'd have to go through and see if there was a mistake made, but
Okay. So it's building bylaw infractions.
That's what it says.
Any further discussion? Director Roberts?
Does that change in regards to our motions being made? Do we have to make sure that it's under the right and correct section?
I will go to the CAO.
It is under the bylaw infraction. If you look at under B1, that's what it states. It's overall B period would have been under the
Untidy.
untidy, but
Yes.
this is B1. And so
Yeah.
it is correct.
Probably don't need that abbreviated heading under there.
Correct.
Okay, so it is under the building infractions. Director Coyne.
Just curious, what's happened between like contact with the property owner, all that kind of good stuff. Just, I don't know, the director's not here, so I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Over to staff.
there's been no correspondence. So there's been no movement on the file. So it's basically once the stop work order was posted, it's at a standstill, and it's been that way ever since for many years.
Okay. The area director is now online. If he had a question, we're dealing with the specific item for your area with the building infraction, Director Coyne. And the motion's been moved and seconded at this stage to put a notice on title. So if
Good.
you have
I'm good with
questions or
that.
comment, now's the time. You're good with it? All right.
Yep.
Not seeing any other hands, so we'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to section C, Development Services. C1, Agricultural Land Commission Referral, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. An application has been submitted to the Agricultural Land Commission under Section 20 of the Agricultural Land Commission Act and referred to the Regional District in order to allow for non-farm use within the Agricultural Land Reserve. Staff's here to answer questions. There is no PowerPoint presentation, and the recommended motion should be appearing on the screen shortly.
Okay, this was in Director Federico's area, so I'll go to her.
Yes, thank you, the Chair. I'll move the staff administrative recommendation.
Moved, seconded, thank you. Any discussion on that? Not seeing any hands. Unweighted corporate, we'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. C2, Agricultural Land Commission referral, this time in Area H, over to the CAO.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is an application has been lodged with the Agricultural Land Commission under Section 21.2 of the ALC Act in order to permit a subdivision to occur within the ALC. Staff's here again to answer questions, no PowerPoint presentation, and the recommended motion should appear shortly.
Okay, I'll go to Director Coyne.
Sorry,
Direction.
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Director Coyne.
I'd like to move the administrative recommendation, please.
Okay, moved, seconded. It's on the floor. Any discussion or questions on this? Not seeing any hands again. So again, corporate vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed?
Tracy, can you see too?
That motion carries. C3, a Crown referral in Area D, CAO.
Thank you. Again, the purpose of this is to seek input on the application for provincial approval for an investigative use license for the proposed utility scale, solar scale power project on Crown land in electoral area D. Again, staff's here to answer any questions in the PowerPoint. I believe there's no PowerPoint presentation, and the recommended motion will be appear shortly.
Okay, over to Director Taylor. Direction on this?
I'd like to move a motion. I would just like to add bullets reflecting that this land is also used for backcountry recreation purposes and agricultural purposes as additional concerns.
Okay. I'll give Ms. Batten a chance to put that on there. So you're moving it as with them wording. First, I'll ask if there's a seconder for it. Okay. Seconded. Director Monteith?
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to add a possible amendment that it's all season recreation because it's not only summer, it's winter as well.
Yeah, it's not being specific, so I don't see that as, it's a friendly amendment. I would consider if we used it as all season recreation. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Seeing no hands, call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Again, motion carries. Go ahead, Director Taylor.
Can I further just request that I had a second bullet there about agricultural land use as well?
Recreation, backcountry. Yeah, you got it.
And lastly, can we prepare an information release? We've had some press already, and I suspect after this board meeting and this is reviewed that we could have that.
Right. You've alerted them, so they will be working on it. Down over to C4, another Crown land referral in Area D, forestry activity, CAO.
Thank you, Chair. BC Timber Sales is seeking input on application for provincial approval to undertake logging, road construction, and deactivation activities on Crown land in electoral area D. The staff's here to answer your questions. Again, no PowerPoint presentation, and the recommended motion will appear shortly.
And again to Director Taylor.
Yeah, I'll move the administrative recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Again, not seeing any hands. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. C5 was removed, so down to C6, official community plan zoning and bylaw amendment in Area H, CAO.
Thank you. This application is seeking amendment to the zoning to the subject property in order to facilitate the subdivision of the property into 5 lots ranging from 1.05 hectares to 5.36 hectares in area. So there is no PowerPoint presentation. Staff's here, answer questions, and the PowerPoint presentation or the alternate recommendation and recommendation will appear on the screen shortly.
Okay. And this was the subject of this morning's public hearing. I will go to Director Coyne. Direction on this?
I'd like to move the administrative recommendation, please.
Okay, moved and seconded. Thank you. So that's for third and adoption. Any further discussion on this? Again, not seeing any hands, and this is a rural vote, so call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Down to C7, Area G zoning bylaw, CAO.
Thank you. This is to introduce a new conservation area and parks and recreation zone to the electoral area G zoning bylaw 2781, 2017, and apply these zones to Crown land within the electoral area. Again, staff's here to answer questions, and the recommended motion should appear shortly.
It's there, so I will go to Director Roberts. Direction.
Like to move the staff recommendation.
Okay, moved, seconded, thank you. Any discussion on this one? No hands again. So call the question, rural vote, all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion carries. Brings us over to section D, legislative services. Nothing there. CAO reports. Over to the CAO.
Thank you. Just a couple good news items. As of yesterday, we had 3 speed signs installed and they're actually activated. We had for Naramata and West Bench, and that's something that in conjunction with ICBC grants and the funds from the electoral areas were funded. Today, there's 2 signs being installed there, and these are school safety signs. So that's something that it helps the public and the schools in that area. Outstanding, and it's going to be hopefully in a very short period. Headley and OK Falls are still in the works. The other thing is that I just want to celebrate a major win on Monday, where there was an issue for a service dog, which was lost or taken. We don't know exactly how, but staff came in after hours to help get the information that the RCMP needed to recover that. So this service dog was successfully returned back to the owner. And I've never come across this before, but I want to thank the staff for going out of their way to come in from after hours to make it happen. There is something else on an after hours phone call. I'll ask staff to come up here to discuss one of the issues that we've got a great system in Canada where we've got 911. We don't have a good system at the local government level. And I've seen it where there's issues come across where we need a better system where individuals for an emergency need to have contact. And you all know that where there is a CAO duty line in that issue for the dog, actually, the duty line was actually used successfully. But I just want to transfer this over to Eric and he could elaborate on what we're doing.
Okay, go ahead, Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Zaffino. To the board. Basically, right now, what we have is a couple of different phone numbers, but there is one for after-hour water and sewer emergencies. We're now referring to that as wastewater, 250-490-4141. So that is a number that's available for those emergencies. We've met with all the different departments, including protective services, to talk about language. So an emergency often relates to the Emergency Operations Center. If you have a water or wastewater issue, you may consider it an emergency. So we have to look at whether it's urgent and those types of things. So the bottom line, what we're working on is using that phone number, 490-4141, with help of a dispatch service. So we're looking to put out an RFP or an EFQ or something along those lines. We haven't determined exactly what that would look like, to establish a dispatch service other than a 911 dispatch service, because that's a whole different thing and it can cost quite a bit of money. So basically we're looking at using a dispatch service with the 490 number. So whether a director calls that number or a member of the public, they get a dispatcher, an actual person, not a recording, because people are important who want to talk to a human. And then that dispatch service would have the call out numbers that we have available for whether it's someone from the Parks Department or someone from Public Works, a person who can respond in a timely manner. So that's what we've been workshopping, and we're hoping to figure that out and get a plan to the board in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, but I see a question over here, Director Fedrigo.
Yes, thank you, the chair. Interesting approach. Typically, like, I get having 1,200 different phone numbers can get super confusing for residents and who you need to call, but I'm interested to see more information on this dispatching. Typically, you would just have an after hours phone number. Staff would be assigned that phone on a rotating basis. And when the call comes in, whoever's on call that evening with the phone would be the one to receive it. So I don't know. I want to see more information because currently I'm struggling with why we need a dispatch system, as opposed to just a rotating phone.
CAO?
We're trying to make it more efficient, and we've got great numbers for emergency sewer and water, but that's it. There's more emergencies in a regional district this size. And I've come across it where ultimately some of the directors and then some people out there don't know who to call. And they'll call me either through the duty line or through a roundabout with my regular number, my regular work cell number. And I'm scrambling to find out who to call. Parks, for instance, this issue for the dog, for instance, that came through the duty line, and the duty line is always 100% available, but I need something. This is an operational issue to try improve efficiency for emergencies that need to be resolved immediately. Small things like who do you call if a deer jumps into one of our properties, and I see a director shot and he knows who he is, where it's an issue. A deer is stuck. They were able to jump in, can't jump out. So I want to make it so that people out there have a one-line call. The 911 this isn't 911, but it works perfectly. It's something all the people need to know is that's the number and I've got it. And if we can do something that is as efficient, operational to get something resolved immediately, this will work.
Okay, follow up first, Director Fedrigo, and then Director Monteith.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The city of Calgary has a 311 system that kind of works like that. So there are examples out there that we might want to look into.
Okay, Director Monteith.
Thank you. I actually, I'm excited about this. So I would encourage maybe an after hours number versus an emergency number. So I'll give an example in Clayton. We had a kid that was locked in the bathroom at the park after hours, couldn't get out. So, here we are trying to call somebody to, what do we do? Kids at the bathroom doors, behind the door. So the fire department shows up, police show up, everybody's trying to figure out how to do it. All we needed was a key to open the door, but we broke the door down, right? Like simple things, but it would be an after hours number, I think, versus an emergency number.
Okay. Director Barkwell?
Thank you, Chair.
I like Director Matisa's suggestion here, but I guess this would require some sort of funding, budget amendment of some kind. And I guess as the RDOS grows, more volume increases and at some point it becomes necessary. So I'm not really arguing against it. I'm just wondering how it's going to be funded. What would be the contribution of the districts, which have their own issues, versus rural areas?
CAO, are you prepared to answer that?
I can jump in. There's
Okay.
some challenges right now with where calls are going and who's handling those calls. So if E911 out of Kelowna, for example, is handling calls about the child in the bathroom or the deer, that can get really expensive. And operationally, we're dealing with multiple layers here. We've got the Emergency Operations Center, we've got call outs for fire departments, these after hours calls. So we've had a couple of meetings and it sounds like it might be pretty straightforward, but there are a lot of different factors that come into it. So just very quickly, it is intended to be an after hours number, because during regular business hours, you would call the RDOS phone number and someone could triage what that situation is and make sure we get someone to help you. After hours is different. I'll hand it over to the CAO.
Okay, CAO.
So also, we are currently paying for water and sewer after our calls for emergencies. So this is an improvement. I don't see a major cost. I don't see us coming back to the board asking for a budget amendment or a budget increase.
Okay, good to know. Director Taylor?
I think an improvement would be great. I've had 3 experiences that, like you spend hours or a couple hours on the phone and you're talking to somebody who I spoke with the Kelowna people. They had no clue. They literally did not know where Okanagan Falls was, which was frustrating. So how do you explain to them and get help from them? All right, I know I'm raising humor here, but the problem is where we're at now was brought in as an improvement itself on whatever we had before. So I guess I'm hoping for an improvement, but I'm thinking I would love to hear back what the options are before you actually pull the trigger and move in one direction or another, because I think around the table here, you have probably some of the experiences that you're trying to reflect and address.
Okay, CAO.
So we can bring it back to the board. The duty line, the CAO duty line is something new that I came up with because I saw a need. This is a second generation where I'm trying to improve it, because you phone me to whoever, there's 5 of us, whoever is the deputy CEO that when I'm away would be taking it. We're scrambling to see who do we need to call. And that the dog issue was easy. The deer issue wasn't. And there's other issues out there that it would be nice if we have a number where the issue goes directly to the person that can eventually can handle it. So there is no time delay. So in the case of going for the child stuck in the bathroom, it's imperative that it's resolved immediately, not trying to find the person that can resolve it. The goal is to improve the efficiency of this organization. And if it takes making minor modifications, I'm not adverse to making those recommendations.
Okay. Any further points? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say one of the challenges with having one RDOS staffer on call is that there's multiple other on-call people available. So for example, if someone from Public Works, there's 3 different people who are available for different issues, wastewater or water. If that person was to be taking the phone call, excuse me, then potentially they're on the clock. They're being paid to answer a phone call about something that they're not involved in, and then they're having to go look for people. It's kind of like calling the CAO. It's very challenging. So we really are trying to streamline it. And what we're doing is gathering that information. We'll bring them back to you with plans rather than just saying, here's what we're going to do. So we'll certainly present some options, and it'll be based on cost as well. And one other note I wanted to mention, I believe Summerland might be looking at a similar situation where you're trying to get after hours calls. There is certainly an opportunity where we could partner with other municipalities or First Nations to use the services of a dispatcher or some similar service to basically save money.
Okay, Director Roberts, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. And some of my questions has been answered in regards to cost structures and those things kind of moving forward. I'd be interested in having a format like when we talk about 311 or that kind of idea, that's something that's global that can build onto other municipalities and that. And I go back to all my years in social services when, you know, we used to reach out and I had a big, thick book and binder from Penticton Community Services in regards to emergency calls, whether or not it's emergency shelters for women, whether or not it's drug and alcohol. The idea, if you end up going into one of these things, if it can be structurally set up to build out, it could be something that we can all share together, and that you have that after hours connection to these types of organizations, victim services, etc. And I'd be really interested in supporting something that can have that ability to expand, but also regarding the cost savings of everyone working together. Thank you.
Okay, CAO?
Director, you read my mind. In progression and evolution of what we're doing, if we can prove that this works, we can start approaching other local governments to see if we can get something that is unique, like the 911 system. But it's slowly evolving. Started with the line. We're recommending something that we'll take to the board. And once we've proven, and we've been innovative outside these walls, that other local governments are actually emulating us. And this will be great if we continue leading the way. And there will be hopefully a recommendation to go out into local governments and see if they want to piggyback what we're doing.
Okay. Director Coyne, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at Director Coyne Senior. Because didn't we have this when you worked for the town? I'm pretty sure we had a service that we called, and then it would dispatch our guys out from waters. Yeah, he's nodding yes. So I'm pretty sure we have a system. We might even still use it. I'm not sure, but there was a system in place through a third party.
We'll see what they come up with. You had a comment, CAO, or?
It's good that it's already a proven, I think, system already based on what I just heard.
Okay. Anything further from CAO report before we move to the strategic priorities?
There is no strategic priority update today.
Okay.
The staff members out there supervising the signs being installed.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks, Eric, for the presentation. So down to item E2, Memorandum of Understanding between the City, RDOS, and United Way. Over to the CAO.
So we're a little bit ahead of schedule because Penticton staff was supposed to be here. So I'll see what I can do. So on December 17th, there was a notice of motion regarding a memorandum of understanding that stated that we should have some memorandum MOU between Penticton and ourselves. The next day, I wrote a recommendation, an MOU, based on that the motion that the board adopted. However, based on what Penticton stated, they did not have the authority to implement all of the requests that were in that original board authorization. And in the discussions that happened afterwards, we determined that it shouldn't be just a two-way system, MOU, it should be three ways. And originally it was with the 100 homes, 100 more homes. Then we added United Way, then we took off 100 more homes, and we came up with this 14-page MOU that is between the City of Penticton, Regional District, and United Way. There is a lot of commitments made, and one commitment that Penticton made and the Regional District is that we will have some support staff. We're not talking about a lot of time, especially with us. We don't have the staff that Penticton has, where myself and Joanne from Communications will be the key contact persons. You've seen, hopefully you've read the MOU. There's a recommended motion. Essentially, it also states that not all three parties have signed, and we haven't even signed it yet. I'm stating that the board authorized the signing of the MOU and hold up on the $80,000 until the other two parties sign it. So that protects it. I usually do not take an MOU that's not signed by the second party and then I'll bring it for you to sign. But this case here, the time frame just didn't work between the council meetings and the meetings that United Way has. So by putting in the last recommendation that essentially says that the board directs staff to release the 2026 contribution of $80,000 once the city of Penticton and United Way have signed the memorandum of understanding. There's a lot to this. It protects the regional district, city of Penticton. All three parties, I believe, we're all satisfied, and we're all bringing it back to our respective council and boards. One of the things I did add, and Penticton also accepted it, is that our logo appears somewhere to identify that the regional district has contributed funds towards it, and Penticton piggybacked on that also. And that's something that I expect on all MOUs, wherever it's taxpayer funded, our logo involved. So I can try to answer some of your questions. We gave Penticton notice that they should be here between 10, close to 10 o'clock, and
We're ahead of schedule.
we're way, yes, we're more efficient than I even thought we could be. So I'm here to answer any questions that I can. I might have to defer some, but I'm here. Staff's here to answer your questions.
Okay, Director Monteith, start with you.
Thank you, through the chair. So I want to start off with saying I really appreciate the work that United Way does. I really like the good work that 100 More Homes does. I understand why we're going through this process, but I don't know if, and maybe I don't understand, but is the 100 More Homes model going to be created in a regional lens so that the outlying communities within the regional district are going to have the same voices? Like we're going to see the South Okanagan Chamber on a board that's separate from the 100 More Homes of Penticton. Like what is that going to look like with a regional lens so that the entire region is being represented?
CAO.
I can try to answer this. So first of all the PIT counts are going to be including the regional district, not just the city of Penticton. There's supposed to be 3 updates for this board and 3 updates for the city of Penticton. It is in my mind, based on what the MOU has, it is a regional length. It just going to take more than 1 year because we're talking 6 municipalities, including Penticton would be the major one, and the 9 electoral areas. So wherever there was an opportunity where there was supposed to have something done by 100 More Homes / United Way, I tried to get in. The regional district was also involved. So, but as far as directors are concerned and all that, that's something that I can't speak to.
Okay, follow up, Director Monteith.
I didn't hear clearly, sorry, that the region was going to have a similar model. Is that not what's happening?
So I just asked for Penticton to get in here now. So as far,
sorry, I'm not trying to put you in the hot seat.
no, well, what I myself negotiated is that whatever, and I'm not picking on Penticton, is we would get essentially the same services that Penticton gets, but not at the same level. We're not putting in all the funds, the same amount of funds. But if you go through the memorandum of understanding, MOU, you will see that the regional district is an integral part, I think that's them, of the agreement. It's as fair as we can get it. And I just see city staff just walking through here.
Okay, we'll give them a minute to come in. Should probably open the door so they know that it's.
And while we're waiting, I want to thank the corporation that I got with the city of Penticton and United Way. Now, and the other thing that I'm pretty sure that Naomi, who is with the 100 More Homes, she's not. Yeah, come on up. I'm trying. They're asking.
Hi, everyone.
Not anymore.
Well, he's struggling to answer some questions, so he's needing some support right now.
He's doing all right. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I've been really sick this week. I didn't want to make anyone else unwell. Thank you for the question, Councillor. The answer to your question is that yes, we will be meeting with all the different communities across the regional district area to understand how they would like to participate in the new governance model that is the regionalisation of 100 more homes. In addition, the name of 100 more homes comes with connotations attached to Penticton specifically. And whilst that work is really important and we're incredibly grateful to the City of Penticton and all of our partners, we understand that this is an evolving model now. And we're also curious about what that naming looks like as the model has evolved, what the new needs are, and how we're addressing those needs in the future. We're looking forward to meeting with many community partners and potentially yourselves if you're in the area to understand how that governance model can be designed so that it's inclusive and represents the regions in a really strong and positive way.
Okay. Does that answer your question a little better, Director Monteith? Okay, Director Roberts.
Thank you. And I'm wondering whether or not your model fits in an ability to reach out to First Nations, just like in the Similkameen community with the upper and lower, because a lot of times we have, cross cooperation in regards to resources. So I was wondering how that looks within your model, or is it just at least part of the plan? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Roberts, through the chair. Yes, we have every intention of working with Okanagan Nation Alliance and the various First Nations within the regional district area. At this point in time, we haven't reached out to them. We were focused on moving this MOU forward with the signed partners to the docket as it is. We know that First Nation relationships take time, and that there may also be other things that are priorities for those groups in relationship to the regional districts. So kind of treading into that area lightly, but certainly wanting to make sure that those needs and those communities are represented within the model moving forward. It's not specifically mentioned within the MOU deliverables because we don't know what that looks like. We haven't sat down with them yet to better understand how they would like to be involved. So yeah, it's definitely something that we would want to include, and maybe that's something we can add for a second year kind of deliverable.
Okay, Director Taylor.
Quick question for the proponents from Penticton and then two quick for our staff. But could I hear in your words just what you see as being the expected outcome outside of Penticton, but in the district? What do you expect we would see?
Through the chair. So I think in the MOU, Ms. Woodland articulated some of the regional components, including doing the data analysis to really understand what the unique needs of each of your electoral and respective areas are. So the point in time count, you might recall last time I joined with Ms. Woodland, we presented Penticton's data. And so I think the first thing is to really understand what is happening in your communities, where those greatest needs are. And there is a plan over the next 3 years to do those in-depth counts in each of your communities, with 100 more homes taking the lead on that. We'd also really like to understand who the service providers are across the region, to identify where there might be capacity to expand services. We know in Penticton, as an example, many of our housing and social services do have regional mandates. And so having the opportunity to have everyone at the same table also will identify where those gaps and where the service providers could be in potentially filling those gaps. And also we'd like to do a service and an inventory analysis of sorts of what's currently available across the region, where the asset potentials are, where there's possible land that could be leveraged and looked at for proposals to the provincial government to actually address those needs. But we, in our experience working with our provincial partners, having that solid understanding from a data perspective is huge in building out proposals and business cases. And I think working regionally to prioritize where some of those resources that are limited provincially are is going to be part of the work that we would seek to bring back biannually. I'm not sure if Ms. Woodland shared, the intention is to have 100 more homes come back to you on a biannual basis to report. So in my words, that's kind of how I see the regionalization component looking.
Okay. CAO, I'll quickly wanted to respond as well, and then back to Director Taylor.
So you'll see the word regional throughout the memorandum of understanding. And in the actual report, not the MOU, it has highlights of what's in the MOU. And this is a quote: regional deliverables led by 100 more homes, including expanded data collection, regional coordination activities such as point in time count, RDOS community service, and asset inventories, joint advocacy, funding proposals, regional priorities. So that's just one section, and the word regional appears at least 3 times just in that one sentence. So it is a true regional led MOU.
Okay, Director Taylor.
I also saw reference, and I think this is to our staff, but relative to Penticton and what we're doing. And I just wondered if it would be appropriate to have that in limiting the RDOS's liability as well.
Okay, CAO.
It's a service that we are participating in. So under the Municipal Insurance Association, we'd be covered under any liability, same as Penticton and any local government that would be involved. So that's something like that. We don't usually add anything like that into MOUs like this.
Okay, follow up, Director Taylor.
Sure. So I'm just getting at the point on page 104 of our package. It says, for clarity, the city of Penticton are not liable for any tax homes. Yeah, I just wondered why we wouldn't have RDOS in there. If they feel it's appropriate, why we don't?
CAO.
You could that if you feel comfortable. This is the budget is for $80,000 over 3 periods. Penticton's more involved in this than we, but we are limited to the $80,000 for 2 years, and that's it. We wouldn't be liable for anything else.
Okay. Any further questions, Director Holmes?
When we look at the unhoused Summerland, it's a very transient population. They come and go, but the numbers swell in the summer and go down quite substantially in the winter. So we don't exactly know where they go. We can imagine they come to Penticton in the winter, but I'm just wondering if the point in time things will capture that, and will they be done at different times in the season? So, when we're thinking regionally, is that something that the study would be looking at?
I'm not sure which to that, but go ahead. Online.
Thank you for the question through the chair. I think that's a really important point to make about the difference between rural and urban unhoused populations and that transient nature of migrant workers or folks just working in different industries throughout the region. So I think we would take direction from the community on when they would prefer to see the counts done. Like, is it preferable to do it at a time when those numbers will be higher because that kind of gives us a maximum number of folks in the community, or is it better to do it when it's kind of quieter and those visible homelessness issues kind of become more prominent within the winter months? So it would be challenging to do 2 counts a year. The amount of resources that requires is fairly intensive, and we'd want to try and do it within a similar time period year over year so that we've got comparable data. So as I said, we're building out what that community engagement looks like, who we want to have represented on those different tables, and I think that's something that as communities we can decide what the best way of capturing that data is. If you've got a preference now that you'd like to share, that's great, helps us with our planning. But yeah, just kind of depends on what the community prefers. I don't know if the city has anything to add. Thanks.
Okay, follow up. Go ahead, Director Holmes.
But wouldn't the counts have to be taken the same time across the whole region? Because if you're doing it at different times throughout the region, you might be counting the same person twice.
Yeah, that's a good point and something we'd need to consider within this region. Generally speaking, when point in time counts are done nationally, they are done within a specific time period of a couple of months. I think it's October to November every 2 years. So that's the national standard. we can work with the Homelessness Services Association of BC, which do provide some funding to support this work, to see if we could do the count on a single day across the region. And just kind of to reduce that duplication. Another way of doing it is something called a frontline provider count, which is, you may have heard of the term a by name list. And what that does is it records unique identifier information within the point in time count. And then when we come to share the data, we remove all of the names, of course, but by having those names in the first place, we reduce the likelihood of duplication of data. So there are ways of getting around that, but your point is heard about making sure we don't duplicate the information.
Okay. Director Federico?
Thank you, good chair. I have a couple of questions. One, why are we considering this as an MOU and not as a memorandum of agreement or something a little more binding than non-binding? I do appreciate that the motion that came forward said MOU, but just one clarification on why it's not more binding.
CAO?
The board was looking for some commitments, and the MOU meets those commitments. That I believe, and the notice of motion did state MOU, and I agreed that that's all we really needed. Originally, it was to be with just Penticton and ourselves, and we've added now the United Way, but it does meet the goals what you wanted.
Yeah. And if they're not going to meet that, they would be coming back to us to probably, or you would be informing us of that. So
correct, and the power that you have, we're not giving that the money all at one time. It's 80,000 per year, and they'd be expected to give us all the information. Okay. So you do have control.
Follow up. Go ahead, Director Federico.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, just another question, and I have a question after that. Under commitment and key deliverables from United Way, number 4 under community engagement, it talks about community cleanups. So we've been struggling with homeless camping cleanups within our electoral areas. We've asked the RCMP, we've approached the province. In here then, is there possibility for liaising or trying to help us bridge that gap on how we can get those cleanups to happen in our community? There's been abandoned RVs, there's like just a plethora of stuff. And typically, so in my area, I've had residents who've shown up with dump trucks and front loaders to clean it up themselves. So if there's support to help us navigate that under this, that would be wonderful. And I'll throw in a question, and this one's for Jim. Just curious on why you would be a contact on here, not Deb's team within protective services, as some of them do have a background in social development, and it's something that department is keen on being engaged in. So just wondering why they're not one of the key team members from the RD.
Go ahead, CAO.
So while I am the contact person, I'm not necessarily the person that will do the work. I will delegate as I see. And it may, in some cases, may not be protective services. I also have the communication staff available. I need to see how much of the resources it's taken. And this is just, I'm not a micromanager, but I want to make sure that staff is working within their capacity. So I just want to control who gets to work and if it gets done as an action item.
Okay. Director Coyne.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still having reservations. Even the question that Director Federico just brought up about community cleanups. We, Area H and Princeton are in totally different jurisdictional areas than the Okanagan side when it comes to natural resource officer. So I'm just challenged by it all. A lot of this work is being done in community already. A lot of effort has gone into getting point in time counts done. And I think United Way might still be on the table with our what is it called? It's our joint agency meetings, and a lot of that, like I said, a lot of that's being done already in the community. And I'm just worried that we're duplicating some of that process there's going to be, like I said, jurisdictional issues. We're still trying to get NR officers to come to the community because ours are based out of Kamloops, not Penticton like you guys. So, you know, there's a huge difference between the upper Similkameen side of this regional district and the Okanagan side of the regional district. We don't always talk to some people you do. So there's going to be extra effort have to be put in to make those contacts and even get them to come from Kamloops or wherever they're coming from. I mean, some of our permits are being done through the Caribou now. So, you know, it's getting harder and harder for us to make contact with people. And I'm just still trying to see how this is going to support the Similkameen side of things.
Okay, CAO.
So the board's already authorized the $80,000 for 3 years. This is a way for the board to have some control and expectations met. And the notice of motion asked for that, and I believe this meets that request.
Okay, seeing no more questions. Oh, go ahead, Director Monteith.
Thank you. When we talk about the point in time when you're counting people, does that include the road space between the communities and along the KVR? So in my electoral area, we would see people staying in RVs and the road pullouts. I have people camping along the KVR. Are they going to be counted as part of my area? Because that's a large space. So that's what I'm looking for.
Go ahead, Naomi. I think.
Thank you for the question through the chair. As I alluded to earlier, I think this is really down to community design. I think those are really important things to make sure we consider as we're designing the point in time counts. I will just, in terms of the methodology of a point in time count, it's an attempt to count everybody within a certain area within a 24-hour window. That's the official methodology. As I mentioned, we've seen frontline provider counts, which have been operating over a month-long period that uses that by name list approach. So I would recommend that we do something like that, particularly for those areas where people are camping and moving. And on KVR, you might see them one day out of the whole month, but you might not find them on the 24-hour period for a point in time count. So I think that those kind of things can be considered as we operationalize what those point in time counts look like. And that point is also heard and added to our list of things to consider as we design those point in time counts. We really want to make sure that this works for all the different types of communities and regions across the area that's being talked about today. And your knowledge and expertise is so important to make sure that we get the right things put into that operational map. So I hope that helps answer the question. Thanks.
Did I see a follow-up? Go ahead.
Thank you. This is for staff. So at what point will the electoral area directors have a voice in sharing our local knowledge about things?
CAO.
As soon as I have another meeting with Penticton, because we need to make sure that we're on the same time frame. And you will have input, all 9 of you, at an electoral area committee meeting.
Okay. Anything further as far as questions? Otherwise, we're looking for a motion to deal with this. Director Taylor, you moving it? Moved. Seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Just 2. Did you get them, Ms. Batten? Director Monteith, and online, Director Raymond? That's it. That motion carries. Anything further from CAO?
Nothing further.
Nothing further? Perfect. That brings us down to other business. Chair's reports. Not a ton to report other than there is a upcoming chair and CAO forum in April in Victoria that the CAO and I will be attending along with MFA at that time. And there's also a OK Falls meeting yesterday in the after lunch. I wasn't able to attend the first 10 minutes or so, so I missed a bit of it, but caught the vast majority. And really the only change that's notable is probably the open house date was changed. And I think it's April 23rd that they're shooting for. So that would be the only notable thing to mention out of there, unless Director Watts had something to add. Okay. Otherwise, all things moving forward as usual. Director's motions, that brings us to. We've got a few on the list here. I'll start with the first one from Director Federico. Maybe. There, use the neighbors.
There we go. Neighbors, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Okay, so you're withdrawing that one. I believe there was one more on there from Director Roberts.
Yeah, the neighbor.
The neighbor. Go ahead.
Whereas historically with our curbside and with bag amounts, we were allowed 95 liters per bag in 2 bags. And where we have a 120 liter rubbish recipient, which doesn't necessarily meet the grade. And whereas we have set, or the organization has set a fee, monthly fee, if you want to upsize to the next size. So on top of it, you have a one-time switchover fee, I believe of $5, and then you have a annual $60 that's paid monthly, $5 monthly, adding up to 60. I believe that this, in regards to whatever changes or expansions or needs that come from having a slightly larger reciprocal would be covered under our already pre-existing fee service the way we have, where we've gone up 100 to 100 and so many more percent on our fees, and it's supposed to cover in maintenance. And I believe that we should be able to just have a one-time fee for changing out, being able to have one larger reciprocal for rubbish. I don't believe it meets the need for, especially those who have 4 teenage boys and a bunch of big dogs, maybe, versus a small seniors living in a small apartment. Of course, the 120 liters does make sense. Whereas I do understand that if you want to get an additional container, that there should be a monthly fee. So for instance, in Area G, we have taken care of the initial cost of bins. If you were to need an additional bin, that yes, you rent from the RDOS. But to upsize from 120 to the next size up, I believe should not have a monthly fee. It should be just a one-time switchover fee, providing the needs, because there are people that want smaller and there are people that need a little bit larger. And we have lost the amount of 60 liters that was provided for us through our historic amounts allowable on a weekly basis. So my motion is to be able to remove the $5 a month or the $60 per annum with the increase of the rubbish side to the next size up, but to have a one-time transfer fee to change. Thank you.
Okay. Now, just for clarity, is this a notice of motion or were you hoping to deal with it today?
Well, it's a notice of motion. I could like to deal with it today. Again, what we're looking at, I believe, because we've already done the fee and services bylaw, I'm assuming it's something that would come further down or that had more things involved with it, but we can turn that over to staff.
Yeah, I was thinking that there's probably more information we'd need than to just pass this today. So is that something that we can bring back, CAO?
We can bring back a report that states if we're going to reduce the fee somewhere, it has to be compensated somewhere else. So a report with that, and the board can make a change to the fees and charges bylaw if you wish.
Okay, well, let's not get into a big debate about it today, but I'll let
I won't get into a big debate, but that is part and parcel of my concern, is that it's something that we already have maintenance costs tied into our format of paying our additional amounts, and that this is just an additional fee on top of an additional fee for something, for just doing a one-time changeover to an additional size that meets the need and what meets the historic amounts allowable for people to have removed from curbside. But yes, I making this a motion so that we could have that documentation. Thank you.
Okay, so there'll be some info coming back. Director Holmes?
I guess the issue I have is why is staff doing this work to prepare this information? If I think the motion ought to be for that staff to do this work to come back with.
Maybe we do need a motion
It
for
shouldn't
that.
just be that we do it or not, because what if we're not opposed? What if we're not don't agree with it? The staff have done all this work for absolutely.
That makes sense. It's a good point. So I'm going to ask the CEO, do you want board direction?
No, okay, I understand what's the board wants, and there will be a report. If the board wants to pass this recommended motion, you're going to need to have some background, and the background will determine if it's a yes or no.
Okay. Director Roberts?
Is this something that we would bring back to the electoral area committee?
I'm not sure who well, it is us as participants, but it could be a bigger discussion at some point. CEO?
Ultimately, it would start there, but it would end up at the board because it does affect the fees and charges bylaw, and that's a director board decision.
Okay. Any other notices of motion? Director Coyne?
I don't have a question. I have a question on this motion. So on things like this, there's some of you that pay into it, some of you don't. Some of us don't pay into it. Why are we included in the vote on things like the garbage service or even this when Area H and Town of Princeton, we're not involved? I get that it's a financial thing, but at the same time, we're not participants, and we're voting on things that we have absolutely no skin in the game. I feel like it's a disservice to the people who actually have the service when we're participating in it.
I'll go to Ms. Back.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. So it is all to do with what the Local Government Act sets out for who votes on what types of issues. Bylaws, it's a corporate vote. So if we are changing this on anything, it's a corporate vote. I hope that answers your question.
I'm confused by there's bylaws that we all vote on even if we don't participate in. So it's just confusing when, you guys have a bylaw that is participant only, like what was the RGS? No, it wasn't RGS. There was something the other day where it was participant only. And it was a bylaw that you guys are part of that service through a bylaw. That's just like this. There's a bylaw.
I think it's on how it's set up, but Ms. Batten can actually clarify that better than me. So,
Mr. Chair, you're exactly right. We put all of our fees and charges into one bylaw. So therefore, there are multiple samples for all different types of things in that bylaw. The reference that the director was speaking to participant vote, I believe that was a regular for that service only. However, I'll clear all that up for you guys for next time.
Oh, it does get confusing though. There are so many voting methods and rationales for it, but any other director's motions? Seeing none, we will move on to board members' verbal updates. Board representation, as I just mentioned, the Municipal Finance Authority, they're meeting in April. MIA, Missing Municipal Insurance Association, not until UBCM, Okanagan Basin Water Board. Anything there, Director Holmes?
Just a few things. We had a board meeting on March 3rd. At the time, there was a lot of discussion, of course, about the drought situation. And a couple weeks ago, but all three Okanagan snowpack stations were measuring low between 62% and 88% of normal. Brenda Mines has recorded its lowest snowpack level since the monitoring began in 1992. And so obviously without some significant precipitation this spring, we could be in a bit of trouble come summer. So the Water Conservation and Quality Improvement Grants, this year's intake, we've had 34 proposals requesting a combined $880,000 in funding. This is the largest number of applications to the OBWB ever. And the program has $350,000 available each year. And so the board's going to have to make some difficult decisions. And there's been a wide range of activities that funding is being requested for habitat restoration, drought, water conservation, education. So the whole gamut. That's going to be a pretty difficult decision for the board coming up. I think it's next slide, isn't it? Yeah. So the next meeting. And then on Sunday, this coming Sunday is World Water Day, and the OBWB is hosting a documentary film in Kelowna UBCO on Sunday afternoon at 10 o'clock. If anyone's interested, it's the name of the documentary is All Too Clear, and it talks about the impact of invasive mussels on the Great Lakes ecosystem, and it's going to be followed by an expert panel discussion on invasive mussels. So if anyone's interested in attending that, just ask me and I can forward you the details. And then some of us are going next week to Silks Water and Climate Forum on Monday and Tuesday. So that should be quite interesting as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Okanagan Film Commission, Director Coyne.
We have a meeting tonight.
Okay, we'll hear from you next month then. Okanagan Regional Library, Director Fedrigo, nothing there? Okanagan Sterile Insect Release, Director Bush.
Yeah, nothing new here.
Okay. Simia, Director Coyne, nothing happening there. May? Oh, wow. That'll be the first one for a while. Yeah. Starling Control waiting on Economic Trust of Southern Interior, Director McCordov.
Yes, we have a quarterly meeting tomorrow, so I'll report the next time.
Okay. And the Collaborative Leadership Table, I think maybe Director Roberts might have something there. He attended on the last one, so.
It's been pretty exciting. I guess all those that have been involved, it's moving along swimmingly, as they say. Our next step, as stated by Director Holmes, is many of us are attending the Silks Water and Climate Forum here in Kelowna, and that will be a build up towards that. And then again, our next hope is to get together again with our working groups, where we have the one in regards to governance, the other one in regards to environment, and be able to bring together a lot of the information that we've already collected. So moving along well, and really, I think it's one of those events that, you know, you get involved in a lot of forums and conferences and committees, and a lot of times you leave feeling wanting. And I find that these ones so far have had the most substantial movements on things, or at least in regards to these relationships on common goals. We think it's been a good place that we've been able to sit as the regional district and local municipalities.
Okay, and I would just add to that, maybe we should, I think there was an information package sent out by Tessa, and maybe we can forward that to staff to send out to all the directors. It's kind of just an overview of what they're hoping to accomplish. And I understood from, I think it was Director Monteith, that some of the public was wondering what's going on. So this would be something that you could send out to them if you so desire. Sure, go ahead, Director Roberts.
I'm not getting all the information that you get.
I will make sure it's getting forwarded. That's why I brought it up. I think that ends it for the verbal updates. That brings us to a closed session. Closed session that, in accordance with section 91I, K, and 92B of the Community Charter, the board closed the meeting to the public on the basis of the receipt of advice that is the subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal services that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the board could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district if they were held in public, and the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between a regional district, a provincial government, or a federal government, or both, or between a provincial government or a federal government, or both, and a third party. So looking for a motion to go in camera on that basis. Moved, seconded, thank you. All in favor? That's great. Any opposed? That motion carries. So we'll just ask the CAO to ensure that only the people needed in the room are in here. And if Lewis can get us. Whenever a guy's hurrying, it seems to take forever, doesn't it? But okay. Motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go to you.
Yeah,
Director Gettens.
thanks to the chair. I just wanted to take a few minutes just to address the Sage Mesa referendum, as it's the last board meeting before our advanced voting takes place on April 1st and the general voting day is on April 11th. And I want every eligible Sage Mesa water resident walking into that vote with accurate information. And there's quite a bit of misinformation that continues to circulate in the community. And it's having a real impact on people's well-being and peace of mind. So I wanted to touch on some of those misrepresentations now, and citizens will also receive a letter from me shortly. Again, verifiable information is available on the project page for the regional district, for the RDOS and the regional connections page. And I use our areaf.com. It's a blog to speak directly to constituents as the creative director. Those opinions are mine, and they provide context for some of the decisions and the discussion we have around this table. I also want to be very clear about my role and the role of every director sitting here, is that we're not telling anybody how to vote, but we do want to ensure that when residents cast their ballot, they're doing so with as much accurate information that is available and a working understanding of how municipal financing operates. To be clear, the regional district has never been in a legal position to recover what the province may or may not have failed to invest in the system in the past 3 decades. We've only been able to offer a path to move forward with the that are available. The referendum is not a vote on whether to spend money on the system. The state of the system has already made that decision very clear. Regardless of the vote, there are necessary and there's urgent upgrades that have to happen in a timely manner. What the vote decides is who manages the work, who pays for it, and how. Under a no vote, the system stays with the province. The province directs the work. And the critical part is that the province, under the controller of water rights, cannot access infrastructure grants or long-term loan. The full cost will land on the 242 current ratepayers. Under a yes vote, the regional district will take ownership. That ownership is what unlocks grant eligibility. It gives the RDOS access to Municipal Finance Authority, which is a borrowing network for wholesale interest rates for local government. It allows the RDOS to spread the cost over 30 years so that future residents who will benefit from the system will also help pay for that system. Those are two very different financial and operational realities for citizens to consider. The most anxiety causing figure is, of course, the $33 million. It is a worst case ceiling. It is not a day one expenditure. It is not a blank check. It is the maximum that the RDOS is authorized to borrow over a 12-year period, draw down as the work is required. It is not a day one expense. There are 12 years to access this fund. The figure was provided by Mulcahy, an independent third-party engineering firm, as a Class D estimate. It includes a 40% contingency that exists to protect residents from financial surprises partway through a multi-year complex infrastructure project. We've all seen what happens when a project runs out of money midstream. The contingency is a safeguard. It is not padding. It has been suggested that this board should lower that borrowing ceiling to make the referendum more attractive to voters. I want to be very direct. The board refused to do that. Lowering the number artificially would have meant misleading residents about the true scope of the work this system requires. The board was not willing to do that. The resident deserved to know the true number. I will say this, that every dollar of grant fund the RDOS secures reduces what taxpayers or ratepayers will actually pay. Pursuing senior government grants is what the RDOS intends to do if this referendum passes. The $33 million assumes zero grant money. It is a ceiling. The actual cost to ratepayers is likely lower. I know that residents want more information, and I understand that. a Class D estimate covers a wide range, and people want tighter numbers before they commit to something this significant is a completely reasonable instinct. Here's the reality. Getting a more precise Class B or C requires meaningful investment in detailed engineering and site testing and design work. The RDOS asked the province directly to allow the RDOS to use the existing Sage Mesa water system reserves to fund those studies. The province said no. That leaves us with the only alternative, that area of taxpayer money is spent on detailed engineering designs for a private water system that the province has not yet voted to acquire. We would be asking every area of taxpayer to fund an expensive study on a system that, if the vote goes no, remains private. That is not fair use of public funds. The sequence has to be vote first, then the detailed studies, then precise design and costing. That is the appropriate order and the order we are following. I'm aware that my integrity has been questioned in some of the community discussions around this referendum, and I'm going to address that briefly and then move on, because the facts speak more clearly than anything I could say in my defense. My job throughout this process has been to bring forward accurate, transparent, and available information and respect the democratic process. The McElhaney assessments are independent. The borrowing structure is a standard local government practice. The decision to present the full $33 million ceiling rather than a softened number was a deliberate choice in the favor of transparency, even knowing it would be so much harder on the citizens to get that number. Finally, I'd like to thank our MLA, Ms. Biltby, for her continued advocacy on behalf of Sage Mesa Water System in the legislature. Her dedication to her constituents is commendable, and I encourage citizens to support her efforts. It's important to note, however, that the province continues to stand firm in its position that no public funding will be made available for a privately held system. This is a reality that must factor into every resident's understanding of the referendum and what it means for our community. I urge citizens to take the time to do their own research and develop a thorough understanding of the operational and financial realities at the heart of this referendum. An informed community is our greatest asset, and your vote deserves to be grounded in facts. Again, residents will receive a letter from me in the coming days. I'll cover much of this information in writing. Of course, please visit the Regional Connections project pages. I'll continue to post updates on ouraf.com blog as we move towards the vote. If you have questions, call our staff, call me. I've had several conversations with citizens, and I'm happy to offer any clarity that I've given right to your vote. Thanks for letting me have a few minutes just to talk about this. It doesn't go lightly on anybody around this table, I know, and we're here to help answer some questions from citizens. Thanks.
Okay, well said, Director Gettens. Thank you for that, and I think your constituents will appreciate that in the long run. Looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Moved, seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Great. Any opposed? We are adjourned. And we will move directly into the Committee of the Whole. So over to Director Watt.
Thank you, Chair, and let's call the meeting to order. 11:47. Ask for a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Moved, seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And we're going to move right on to item B, which is 2024 Regional Growth Strategy, and I'm going to refer to the CAO, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is an information report, and the purpose of this report is to provide an overview of the 2024 Regional Growth Strategy snapshot, which is prepared in support of the South Okanagan Regional Growth Strategy. Staff's here with a PowerPoint presentation and able to answer any questions you have.
Go ahead, Steph.
Okay. So the South Okanagan Sub-Regional Growth Strategy for 2024 snapshot. Just gonna go right into it. Go. So the Local Government Act requires the regional district to measure their progress towards regional growth strategy, and it is required to monitor the regional growth strategy by tracking them and reporting them on an annual basis. And the RDOS measures these progress using 16 performance indicators, and they are separated into 7 goal items, which will be addressed in the next few slides. Yeah, so each of these goal items are addressed in the report with a little summary in the beginning, which to address these, track these changes indicated with these three icons to indicate progress, either in terms of green icon to say that we're doing well and moving forward towards progress. The blue icon indicates that we're not doing well, and sorry, there's no substantial change. And the orange icon says we're moving away from the goal. Before we get into the indicators, I'd like to address some of the assumptions and qualifiers that went into the analysis. Although some of the data that was the snapshot was meant to address an annual reporting for 2023 and 2024. It is worth noting that some of the data points for these indicators relied on statistical data that are only available once in every 5 years. To address the shortcoming, some of the data points were taken, for instance, population was taken from estimates from BC statistics, and formulas were used when necessary. Yeah. So the 7 goal items carry this all of the performance indicators, and I'm going to address some of the key items, starting with housing and development. For number of housing starts in the primary and rural growth areas, this data is taken with the building permits that were issued, and it was noted that there was 11% increase between 2023 and 2024, where 86% of the housing starts were known to occur within the primary growth areas, where only 14% were noticed within the rural growth areas in 2024, which is seen to be a positive shift in terms of growth. So this data is to break down the number of housing types that were developed within the region. And it was noted that the single family housing only accounted for 21.41%, which is a significantly lower number compared to the historic average of 67%. And the shift also indicates that multifamily developments were favored, with apartment units of 327 units were noted in 2024, which accounts for about 76.94% of the residential development. And row houses, even though there was a reduced number, it shows that the multifamily developments were favored, and it seemed to be a positive trend. In terms of median home pricing, this was taken from the 2010 CPI dollar value to indicate median home pricing, and a 6.8% decrease was noted from the past years. And it has, even though 2022 was noted to be the highest in terms of median home pricing, the rates have not returned to past 2021 periods. Breakdown through electoral areas, it was noted that areas A and I saw a significant decrease in median home prices, where there was a moderate increase in areas D, E, and F, while also other member municipalities such as Town of Vesuvius, Town of Oliver, Penticton, and Summerland also experienced a slight decrease. This is seen to be a positive trend. On to the next goal item, which accounts for average daily water consumption.
If I could just hit your pause button for a second, Director Taylor, you have a question?
Wondering when I become sort of go section by section, or
I would suggest section by section makes the most sense if that works for you, or is it best to wait till the end? Do you have a comfort level?
Sure.
So I was just like to comment on type of house construction, because I think you've got some breakdown. Yeah, like I think if we could see that on by area, or Penticton and rural, Soyuz and rural, or something like that. But I just think there's, I mean, is any of that apartment stuff happening outside of Penticton? I think that would be important to know.
Mhm. Yeah. So the data source for this comes from BC statistics based on building permits issued that is broken down to single family dwelling, row housing and apartment units, which primarily addresses Penticton as a city and then the rural areas.
Dr. Taylor, does that answer your question?
Well, I guess I'm wondering if in the regional growth strategy document, we will see
Staff, is that possible?
Through the chair, I don't have the data in front of me to speak to this exact item specifically, but as noted at the outset, one of the main challenges with this GS monitoring, as noted, is that really high quality data that bores down jurisdiction by jurisdiction is generally only available in census years. That's where that data lives. In intervening years, often is the case we're relying on higher level conventional data, which doesn't parse out electoral area by electoral area. So it may be the case with this one, and we can certainly revisit this at a workshop, how this is presented in future years. But just noting that it may be the case that you would parse out by all of the electoral areas as a whole and municipalities individually. Depending on the exact data point, it may be presented slightly differently. It's just reflecting that the data that we're relying on is data produced by other agencies.
Thank you for the answer. Please proceed.
Okay, moving on to the average daily water consumption, and this accounts for both residential and irrigation uses as well. And a positive trend was observed that the average water consumption overall was decreased by 158 cubic meters per person, and the Oliver area and Narrow Meadow seem to consume the most amount of water, and Sun Valley continue to consume increased amounts of water, but still a decrease was observed overall. For the average daily waste landfill per person, this excludes any additional waste such as recycling, and this an increase in the landfill was observed by 1.5%, which is still lower than the all-time high that was experienced in 2021. Seem to be a negative trend on that. In terms of annual regional bus ridership, BC Transit data indicates an overall positive shift of increase in ridership throughout the region, where specifically in Penticton, an increase in about 15.5% was observed. And the more interesting fact is the Okanagan-Similkameen Unit 745 saw a significant increase between 2022 and 2024. It jumped to about 3,872 ridership, which was higher than 23, but it's still lower than the 2022 numbers. It seemed to be a positive trend. The annual crime rates.
Sorry, one more time, Dr. Taylor.
I mean, I'm thinking the point is we're supposed to be providing some comment, but I'm really struggling with these numbers. When I look at numbers that staff have provided from transit for 2025, so different year. But like, I won't get into it here, but I don't have confidence in this number or the numbers I've been given separately. And then secondly, relative to the water consumption, you know, I appreciate the value of metering. I'm really questionable that people in Oliver are using 2,000 cubic meters per capita, and the people in Summerland is 0.64 meters. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of this data, but I wouldn't want to get my mortgage somewhere.
Dr. Barkwell.
I'll go a little further and say it's got to be, and the nicest thing you say, it's got to be put in context. Otherwise, we shouldn't be presented with data that doesn't make sense. It has to be explained. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. This water, and I'm speaking specifically about the water data. I can speak, the bus ship.
Fair enough. And I think the comments obviously directed at future presentations, and I'm assuming very well taken. So thank you. And please do again proceed.
The annual crime rates, the latest data was reported for the statistical year, which was for 2021, and that indicated an increase in crime rate by 2.9% within the RGS area. The number of businesses with employees, this is taken from BC Stats, which showed a slight decrease in about 1.4%, which is about 6 businesses, which is a 2% decrease from 2022 and a 3% decrease from 2017. The total, in terms of regional economic development, the assessment with the use of total value of building permits issued is to help indicate, by means of building permits that were issued for these uses, is to indicate the amount of development and infrastructure interest within the regional district, including the Similkameen, and that specifically addresses the residential, commercial, and institutional buildings. And there was a decreasing trend in 2023 that was observed, which was reversed in 2024 with an increase of about 94.29% in the amount of building permits that were issued with these uses. It seemed to be a good trend. In terms of engagement and collaboration, which is one of the final sections, the goal item steered a survey which was presented in 2024 to members of public to gather feedback on services provided to the programs. Some of the key local issues, there was a good amount of responses. A total of 327 responses were received by online and through mail, which indicated some of the key items of issue that was identified by the community to be healthcare, homelessness, water services, and taxes. When asked about quality of life, services, and engagement, the community indicated overall for the quality of life to be good and very good. And when asked about levels of programs and services provided by the staff and the local government, the responses indicated average and good. However, when asked about involving in decision making and response to feedback, the responses indicate satisfaction of poor. In terms
Sorry,
of,
excuse me, Director Barkwell.
Do we have any breakdown of the this community satisfaction survey results, like by community or area or anything? That would be
Yeah.
of, I think of.
It was a regional. Through the chair, I think the survey was done on a regional scale, and I'm sure I'll be able to provide a response and follow up.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. When asked about preferred communication methods, email continued to be the preferred method of communication, followed by RDOS website, as well as wine alerts. And in terms of sharing feedback, the members of the public indicated surveys to be the preferred platform of communication. And in-person staff conversations were also considered. And online public meetings were preferred as well. The final item is in terms of energy use within the region, that is accounted in terms of greenhouse gas emission and for residential uses. The latest data from 2021 indicates that we are consuming more energy and we need more action to consume that. And the final step is that the report is going to be posted at the RDOS RGS monitoring webpage, and it will be distributed to the South Okanagan and other municipalities.
CAO, you had a question, point?
Just to say that I saw that there was some concern on the water usage and the bus ridership. What we'll do is we'll go back and look at, confirm where those numbers and verify where the numbers came from and send that out to the board, because it's important that you have confidence in these numbers and report.
Thank you for that comment, Director Roberts.
Thank you to the chair. In regards to the increase of energy use, is the definition in regards to energy, like for instance, we're being pushed away from using natural gas. More people are using heat pumps, etc., with the electric vehicles. So is this an increase in our electrical use versus energy as a whole? Thank you.
Through the chair, I think it addresses energy as a whole, which consumes both residential uses and everything within the region.
Further? Director Pendergraft, it's hard not calling you chair.
On
So-
that energy one, is that
Sorry, I would like to, sorry, through the chair, I think it says it's average residential. I'd like to correct you, it's average residential.
residential energy?
Director Bush.
Hi, I'm just wondering, is any of this information useful to us?
I think we all have our own answers to that question. I do have Director Roberts and then Director Barkwell.
There you go. So in regards to residential consumption, average wise, this number would be affected by the increase of housing by 11%. So that if having an increase, so I'm just trying to make a definition in my mind between what is poor versus what is well. Does one affect negatively by another positive? So, thank you.
Staff response?
So it's average residential, so it doesn't increase because of the increase in the number of housing units. But with much of this data, you have to take it with a bit of a grain of salt, because energy, as an example, if you have an extremely hot year and people's ACs running more, that impacts it. Same with water consumption. You can have a really hot year, or you can have a really wet year. BC Transit, they do their ridership stats, and quite often they're on the bus a couple days out of the year. So was that a high day or not a high day? So it's imperfect, but we're required to do this update every year in relation to the snapshot. So
thanks for the answer, Director Barkwell.
Thanks. I sort of first in reply to Director Bush's question, I'd say it's a least of interest, and then how you use it. But I was looking at the mood anxiety disorders, and it seems like Penticton is significantly higher than the province and the rest of us. I don't know if that's what that is. But then I thought, well, is it significant? Do we have some way of putting a measure, like, if it's only a sample size of 10 people, or it says it's, whatever the reporting method was, how do we know how significant these differences are, or whether it's sort of random chance, confidence levels, you might say?
Staff, comment?
Through the chair, staff fully acknowledge some of the challenges with these data points. As I mentioned earlier, for many of these points, like just operationally how it's implemented. Yes, the statutory requirement when you've adopted an RDS to adopt indicators, report and monitor on those each year. So the indicators that are seen in this presentation are indicators which were selected by the regional board, likely around 2010 when the RGS was first introduced. So just recognizing these indicators are 16 years in the making and are largely reliant upon external agencies to collect and procure data. Arguably not the purpose directly of that data, and each of those data points reflect the interests of the organization prepared it and the purpose that it was prepared for. But doing our best with the data to indicate long-term trends. It's not so much the change year to year that's of note, so much as the long-term trend cumulatively over several years. So those long-term patterns. And you're absolutely correct that in many cases, small changes can produce seemingly large percentage movement in the data points.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comment? That was the end of the presentation. CO, do you need us to accept this report, or this was just information? And again, key word in this was snapshot. That is intended not to be too in the weeds. Appreciate that. So seeing no other comments, if nobody has anything to add for business, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Seconded, all in favor? Thanks for showing up.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair?
There is some food in here.
There is some lunch available or some take a slice or something home with you. So